Alan Scott, Green Lantern, issue 1, Tim Sheridan writing with Cian Tormey on the art. So, this is the third of these Golden Age character minis slash ongoings. They're a bit vague again as to whether or not these are ongoings or minis, but I was very excited by this. I thought it would be a really cool thing to get more about Alan Scott, and they are doing some of the origin stuff here, seemingly, with telling these stories via sort of flashbacks. And basically, in 1941, he's being blackmailed by Hoover because he's got photos of Alan with a man from his time in the Navy, and he's using that to get him to do what he wants, which is basically just to like, hey, go play nice and be part of the JSA and do like PR and stuff like that. Don't be this loner off doing your own thing. And it's holding this against him. So it's bringing in this, this thing that's been a relatively new creation, which is that Alan Scott's this gay man, which is a really interesting spin on the character, especially the time period that he's typically in. It's a very unwelcoming time period, shall we say, for that type of character. So seeing that explored a little bit and seeing the flashback to him with his secret boyfriend in the military, and then that tying into the origin, because they're engineers trying to build this containment thing for this so-called Crimson Flame that they're looking for out in the ocean somewhere, which is what the backstory is all building up to. There's a little bit of present day stuff with Alan getting involved in this tragedy where he ultimately finds this guy appears again, and everyone else around him seems to think that there's another Green Lantern, because they all think he was already at the scene. They say, hey, you were already here 2 minutes ago, and he's like, no, I wasn't, I just got here. So that's kind of an interesting little thing, and that intercuts with them trying to contain this crimson mist in the past, and as soon as they do it, though, it's like it has a mind of its own. It gets angry and it starts to capsize the ship. So Alan's trying to like let it back out again to sort of free it, and it captures his boyfriend, and that's kind of like the cliffhanger of that part, is him getting dragged away. And then there's a wild thing at the end of the issue where it turns out in the very present day, whoever present that is, it's Alan Scott in Arkham being strapped to a bed and getting electrode treatment.
Yeah. And they talk about conversion, so I'm sure it's going to be a conversion therapy thing.
Yeah, related to his sexuality. I conceptually, I like everything this is doing, and it typically looks quite good. I will admit, though, I do find the writing to be a bit wordy. Particularly the narration boxes. I feel like some of those pages I would turn, and you'd have a narration box with what feels like, a big paragraph in one of them, and I'd feel like I'd be sitting there reading it for quite some time.
And it's doing a lot in a small amount of space, right? There's almost four different things going on at one time, where they also refer you back to one of the Pride specials where the Crimson Flame stuff came from,
which is fine. Like, it's just that teased the story, and this is fleshing it out. Like, that's fine.
Right. And that's all fine. I almost just wish we could have just gotten a chunk of the stuff in the past and then play up more towards this, him realizing about the stuff coming back to haunt him more towards the back. But I really like him being in the engineers, right? And it was almost his kind of first superhero mission, going and dealing with this Crimson Flame. Because he got recruited into it, and it's based off of his character of, not character in that way, but like his moral character, that he's smart. Because when it goes back to him and his boyfriend at the time, his boyfriend was like a baseball player that won a national championship. And he goes, oh, I would talk baseball with you, but you're going to turn everything into like geometry, So we get a vibe of who Alan Scott is.
Yeah, and he's very scared of being caught with him. He keeps saying, don't do anything in public that would be suspicious and things like that.
And Alan's not wrong, because that's the picture that they take together, right? That's the picture that J. Edgar Hoover uses to blackmail him into doing what he wants to, right? Which I'm also a little bit confused why Alan doesn't want to work with the JSA, right? Because he's being blackmailed into working with them by Hoover.
Yeah, because obviously Jay shows up to help towards the end of the present, or the 1941 stuff at least, and he, obviously says hi. It's nice to work together. And Alan's a little bit standoffish. The big thing here, though, is that there was this red energy in the sky, and when Alan goes up to deal with it, he finds this unconscious man on the roof that it seemed to have been coming from. And then it's implied at the end, when he looks down and properly looks at him, he gets this shocked look in his face and says, I hadn't looked at his face properly before. I know him. And I think the implication is that this is his boyfriend from the military time.
It's Johnny, right?
Yeah. Which is an interesting twist. And I like the idea of building up to how, like, whether or not the backstory does build up to how he gets the green flame. Right. Because, we're talking about a crimson flame. It's not hard to imagine that it's going to end up tying into where his powers come from.
And he also hints about the train incident, which we know that's where the Green Lantern came from, right? Like, the reason he got recruited into this mission is something that he had done on a train in between Gotham and DC and stuff. So, like, we are hinting at this type of stuff to his origin, But I'm also wondering if this ties into the whole Red Lantern, the Golden Age era, right, with the Soviet guy.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah, because they even mentioned being in like the edge of Soviet waters when they're on the boat. So yeah, I think they're intentionally bringing that up to make you think, oh, hey, keep in mind we're in that time period. We're talking about Soviets, and the color red, obviously, we associate with them. Yeah, I think this is so. I think the Jay Garrick book, I think I felt really good about. I think the Sandman book, I liked the story. Obviously, was mixed on the art. I think this is one where I like the concepts. I think the art's solid, not blowing me away, but I enjoy it well enough. It's not turning me away from it. But the writing style and how big some of those speech bubbles and narration boxes are, it just feels a bit clunky in places where there's more concise ways to maybe get these points across that just feel like it felt like a bit of an anchor around the book as I was reading it, which is a bit of a shame. I was hoping to love this a bit more than I did.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I like it. It did get bogged down by a lot of the narration, and I feel like, again, it's trying to do a lot in this small amount. I feel like it should have been paced a little bit better, because I like a lot of the content of it. His life as a gay guy in the 40s, right? Like, them talking about that it's a sin and that it's against the law and all this other stuff. It really does make him an outlaw for being who he is, and it has nothing to do with him being a superhero.
Yeah, and it is interesting as well that Alan, he doesn't just say that other people will call it a sin. He says it's a sin.
Yeah.
He himself calls it a sin. So that dichotomy of like his beliefs that he's grown up with, and that also this life that he's leading and how he feels about people, is an interesting thing to explore. So,
well, and we know he ends up having children, right?
Yeah. Like, he ends up.
So he tries to hide it, for longer. So maybe that's where we're going with the conversion, right? Where he tries to repress this part of himself.
Yeah,
for the worse.
Possibly, I think this story deserves to be told, and it absolutely has a place. But to be fair, I think I've only tried things that Tim Sheridan's written before, and I've never stuck with them. I don't think I've ever liked his writing style, sadly.
Yeah.
So this might just be a case where I just don't like the creator on it, and there's not much I can do about it.
Yeah. Yeah, because again, there is a way to do this, and I just feel like it's a little bit clunky on delivery. But I'm still going to keep checking this out, because I need to see where this goes, the Crimson Flame, and that last page specifically, because the fact that he's in Arkham. It's not just any, mental hospital, right?
Yeah. I think I said that when I brought up the...
No, you did. But just the point that it being Arkham and what we associate with Arkham, so...
Yeah, it is quite sinister to think that Arkham used to do conversion therapy, It's like, not that we think of Arkham as this great, moral place or anything, but it is really an extra layer to go, no, it used to straight up do conversion therapy.
Yeah.
Back when being gay was just straight up illegal. So, very interesting to see. I'm kind of interested in seeing where the story goes, but at the same time, it was definitely one of the weaker things I think I read this week.
Yeah, I'll agree with that sentiment.
Yeah. What are you rating Alan Scott Green Lantern?
I'm going to give this a 7.
Yeah. I think I'll go... I think I'm in more 6 territory. I think I wish I liked it more, but I think it's a 6 for me.